Okay, so I will talk a little bit about a few additional topics. I'll start by talking about the installing some of our tools, some of the what we call the Riva client tools. These are tools that our group have developed that the main use of those tools that we do here in FaceBase is to export or download data and to import or upload data to the data to the FaceBase site, and also for authentication. Then I will talk a little bit about exporting data. Then we'll cover a little bit how to go about requesting human subject data, which is something that we haven't seen yet. And then I will give a very small brief primer on how the data submission process goes. So let's go on the installing the Riva client tools. So this is what we call the Riva tools. There is a suite of very reliable tools that are very useful for batch uploading and downloading of data. They are GUI-based tools, but they can also accept command line. You can use it for using command lines in a server or in a cluster or something like that. And we have versions for Mac, Windows, and Linux. And we have very good and very detailed documentation on our site about how to download and how to use these tools. So, briefly mention that before going to the demonstration that, we have for the Mac and Windows, you can download the bundles that can directly install in your machine. And for Linux, you can directly, these are all Python tools, so you can directly install them using the pip command in your Linux machine. Okay, so now let me switch now to FaceBase, and let me show you the probably easiest way of always finding the documentation about the Riva tools. What I do is I go to our submit menu, and in how to submit data, I typically navigate to our wiki. So we will come back to this page, but this is a very useful page, a starting point for anything that has to do with submitting data. We have all the information on how to submit the data, the submission forms, and also all the documentation on all the data submission process. So going through this wiki, in the upload data files, through that we can navigate to the Riva clients. And in our Riva clients main documentation page, we have all the installation instructions and links to the release page. So this is the location you will go to download your Mac or your Windows bundles. So let's say I'm mostly using a Mac machine, so I will navigate to this place, click on the Mac version of the Riva tools, save that file to my local machine. And then once that file finished downloading, you just double click, follow the installation steps, which is very robust. We've done a lot of testing and we haven't seen any problems with that. And then once you go through the installation, what you will get in your Mac is under your applications folder, you will get a folder called the Riva Client Tools with a few of these utility programs. The main two that we're gonna look at today is the dbbag and the Riva Upload utility. But I wanted to show you where to go and find them. So let me go back quickly to my slides. So let's say we've already gone through the installation procedure. Then I already have, once I go through that, I will have the tools installed in my local machine. If you were to want to install this on a Windows machine, the procedure is pretty much the same. You just have to download the Windows bundle release. And for the Linux, like I said, we have also the documentation here. You basically go to your Windows machine and you open the terminal, and if you already have Python 3 installed, so this will require having Python 3 installed in your machine. Then once you have Python 3 installed, you can just use the pip3 install command, and that will install all your Riva tools. And once you have the Riva tools installed in your Linux machine, you can also go to your applications and find the GUI versions of these tools, but you can also use the command line versions of the tools. And we have, this page has a pretty good documentation of how to use that. Okay, so let's assume we already have installed our tools. Then the first use of these tools that we're gonna look at is for exporting data. So like Rob already showed in his previous presentation, everywhere where we have access to data on our site, the files are going to be highlighted like blue, and then you can click on that particular file, and that the browser will prompt you to download that file to your local machine. So that's kind of like the most basic way of exporting or downloading data out of FaceBase at the individual level. But like Rob also mentioned, many of these files tend to be in the gigabyte or sometimes even larger files. And now with all the connectivity problems, it's probably not very convenient to try to download each individual file by just clicking on a file. I mean, if it's a small file, then it's okay. But if you want to download all the data, you want to do some analysis on a data set, and you want to download all the data for a given data set, then you want to use some sort of bulk export, some utility that will download all the files to your machine, and that you can make sure that everything that downloaded is when correct. So we basically had two main bulk export capabilities. One is through CSV files, and the other one is BAG. So the CSV file basically downloads to your machine a comma-separated value, a tabular form of any kind of research, any kind of search result that you go through your site. So this is available both at the detail level and on the results page, but we really find this useful mostly for to download in tabular form results out of a search. For example, let's say, let me go back to FaceBase. Let's say I initiate a search. I'm interested in all the data that FaceBase have for zebrafish. Then these are all the zebrafish data. Then if I go here to export, I can see that I can export. I can click here, and this will prompt me to save all this tabular data. I mean, not everything that you see here in the screen, plus additional metadata that we're probably not showing here, everything will be downloaded to a file in CSV. So I can do that, and the file gets downloaded. So this is the main use that we see for the CSV download. Now let me go back to our more interesting type of export, which is the bulk export of a bag. So for downloading this large number of files and kind of like a bundle of files, we use this standard that is called the BD bag, for big data bag. And when you download that, it will download all the metadata and also all the information about the actual data files or assets, so that you can then download into your machine. So, and again, this is useful. This is available at the detail page level, basically as a data set or an experiment. And this is probably what you want to use to start to download a full data set. And like Rob also mentioned, because we use this standard, this allows us to perform a very thorough validation. The tool, you will see that will shows you a progress and status that will let you know, how everything is downloading, give you the speed, and it will tell you whether it failed or not. And if you run into any kind of problem, you have all that information in that console that you can then copy and paste in an email and send it to us. And also very useful thing is that it can be restarted from where you left off. So you're running your tool, you're downloading these very large data files that have been downloaded for an hour. Suddenly you lose your connection. Well, then you can always come back and restart, and we'll continue downloading from where it left off. So let's talk a little bit about the BDBAC format. Like we say, it's a standard for sharing reliable data collections. It basically consists of a hierarchical directory containing all the data and metadata that is included in the BI, and provides this verification through the MD5 sums of the files. So basically, we're going to see now an example, but basically you're going to download a file that will have the I'm not sure if you can see this, a little bit small, but it will basically have the data set.
This is the download manager. You can think of it that way. So what Alejandro was showing was the directory structure, and I've got it opened and pointed at one particular bag. So this is about how they get downloaded. So you might have gigabytes of data to be downloaded, but the bag itself just contains really the pointers or the references to the data files. So what you do is you get this graphical tool. You navigate down. I've kind of navigated down in my directory hierarchy here to find one such bag. And I can see here, I don't know if this is a little small for you, so I'll read that off. It's about 14 kilobytes, and it's a zip file. So what I do to then download it or to fill it in, I'm going to use the materialize button. And okay, so I clicked on that, and we see that now it's working away here to pull down data. We don't necessarily have to watch it to do that, but then we've got a progress bar at the bottom. And as Alejandro said, this has retry capability built into it. So let's say you're downloading gigabytes of data and you're on a well, probably not on a laptop, but you might be, it's possible. And so if you have any network issues, you can restart it. Also, I would mention that more realistically, if you're going to download some of the raw sequencing data and then run it through a pipeline, that's probably happening off of a workstation or even a computational cluster. And so I don't know whether Alejandro, I don't think he was going to show that, but we have a command line tool that you can run off of your cluster. So you can actually, like, let's say, go to your browser, find the data you're interested in, download that 14 kilobyte file, and then just copy that over to your home directory on your cluster. And then you run the Python tooling that we have that basically does all of what this does underneath it, and fills in all of the data for you. So I just went to that bag, and we see the information came out here. So it did a couple things. I know this is way too dense to read, but I'm just going to tell you what's in there. So it kind of tells us the elapsed time, tells us how much data was transferred for each, and then at the last several dozen or so lines here, it says verifying checksum for files. So it went through every file in there after downloading it and made sure that the checksum matched. So we know that the data I now have is the data that the original researcher uploaded, because our tooling generates the checksum on their machine before they do the upload. We verify it on our side, then you download it from our side and you verify that checksum again. That's end-to-end integrity checking. So I just did that for this dataset 1 DY3G. And if I just expand that now, I see that I have that hierarchy there that Alejandro was talking about. I see I have these CSV files. If I open up assets, which are kind of the data objects themselves, then I see that I have, the data under here, and I'll find it. Okay, there we go. So this was, looks like megabytes of files. So this was a smaller data set. So, so that's how the Materialize works. It's kind of like a download manager, but with integrity checking baked into it. So it gives you all of that capability. So maybe I can turn it back over. I see Alejandro has survived his network outage.
Yes.
So as you see, Alejandro, I just carried on with the BD bag demo.
Excellent.
So you can
Yeah.
kind of pick up where you were going to go. So let me just stop from there.